Thank you, Mayor Newsom. I'd like to introduce San Francisco Supervisor Sophie Maxwell, who is also here today, and invite her to come up to the podium to make some opening remarks.
Thank you. I was not scheduled to speak, but I showed up because I serve and I live in a community that's affected by a failed system. I see it every day. I hear it every day at night. And so I wanted to be here. I wanted to be here among my colleagues and among the people in our city who care so much, and that's all of you. We are so fortunate to have you, and we're so fortunate to have the humanness and in our city attorney, our district attorney, our public defender, our sheriff, our mayor, my colleague Ross Mirkarimi, and many of us who are on the Board of Supervisors. So I'm just here to support and to listen, and again, to thank you all for all that you do every day. Thank you.
And thank you for all being here today. Can you hear me? Okay, great. We're going to be starting this morning's session with a plenary panel of distinguished criminal justice partners. They are representatives from federal, state, and local agencies. They're all coming together to discuss ways of how we can work together to create a comprehensive reentry system in San Francisco with the aim of assisting ex-offenders in starting a new life, helping them to reintegrate back into the community, and to avoid returning to prison. California has one of the highest rates of recidivism in the nation, and reentry programs may be one of the keys to reducing recidivism. I'd like to have our panelists talk about how each of your agencies are currently involved in reentry efforts and programs, and perhaps we could start with Jeff Adachi, San Francisco Public Defender.
Thank you. Well, I know one of the frustrations that I felt, I've been a public defender for 20 years, is that, once you would provide representation for an individual, and when that representation was concluded, one of the frustrations that I always felt is we needed to do more, and that even freeing a person from a criminal case was no guarantee that they were going to succeed, particularly if a person was homeless, if a person didn't have the resources they need, they didn't have the family support. And so for this reason, we began looking at not so much reentry, but what the needs were of our clients. We represent about 25,000 people a year who are charged with criminal offenses in San Francisco. One of the greatest needs that we saw is the fact that a person was saddled with a criminal conviction. And so in 1998, we started a program called Clean Slate, which would help clear a person's record. And a lot of folks don't even realize that if you're convicted of a criminal offense, a felony or a misdemeanor, you can have your record cleared. You have a right to that if you can show that you've rehabilitated yourself. And so we began doing public outreach on this issue so people knew about it and offering the service. I have to say that prior to 1998, we were clearing about 80 records a year. And you literally had to chase down your public defender 3 years after you were convicted, find them, and then have them file the petition in court. What we realized is a lot of people didn't want to come down to the Hall of Justice to get their record expunged. They had bad memories there. And so we wanted to go out to the community and offer this service. So we opened offices over a 4-year period in Bayview Hunters Point, in the Western Addition and Visitation Valley, and now the Mission, and our office in South of Market. We also have a drop-in program so people can simply drop in and don't have to make an appointment. We went from clearing 80 records a year to last year 2,000 records in just 1 year. And what this does is it not only restores a person's rights and it makes it possible for them to get employment and educational loan, because there are a number of disabilities and disadvantages that come with a conviction, but it also helps restore dignity. And if you can tell a person, in the event that they are convicted, that you can get it taken off your record, whether it's a misdemeanor offense, and we probably clear about 100% of the misdemeanor petitions that we file, maybe 95%. The felonies, probably about 70%. And also we even file certificates of rehabilitation with the governor. And so this is a process that we want to let people know about, that they can take advantage of. Now, Is there a lot more work that needs to be done? Absolutely. Is there discrimination that still occurs as a result of employment? Absolutely. And these are things that we need to change legislatively. The other thing I just wanted to briefly mention is that in our juvenile unit, one thing that we've done as well is we now have social workers, both in the juvenile unit and our adult unit. And that's something that's new to public defender offices, because what we can begin doing is immediately providing services. We have one social worker who works specifically with girls, young girls in the juvenile justice system. So when we have a girl that comes in who needs services, we can immediately put them in contact with service providers. Now, I don't believe that social work should be driven by, a person's needs alone. You can't look at a person and say, oh, you need this, therefore plead guilty so you'll get this service. And that's one of the things that we have to be very wary of. At the same time, if we have somebody who needs a service, there's no reason why we can't provide that. And so these are just a few of the innovations that we've used, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing about other work that's being done, both by our fellow panelists as well as people in the audience.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next speaker is Daniel Zurita. He's supervisor with the U.S. Federal Probation Department.